Picture this for a second. It's the stroke of midnight, August 15th, 1947. The rest of the world is fast asleep, but a newly independent nation is waking up to life and freedom. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating story of a man who stood right at the center of that massive shift. We're talking about Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the person widely recognized as the architect of modern India. It's a story of total transformation, going from a life of immense privilege to one dedicated entirely to a national purpose.
And that momentous occasion was perfectly captured by his now iconic Tryst with Destiny speech. Just imagine the sheer weight of that historic moment. There's Jawaharlal Nehru stepping up as the very first prime minister of a free India, standing in front of a country that had fought for literally decades to throw off colonial rule. This speech wasn't just a bunch of pretty words. It was his crowning achievement after years of grueling struggle, and it signaled the birth of a brand new era. But to truly grasp how he ended up at that podium at midnight, we kind of need to rewind and see exactly where he came from.
So let's look at his journey from privilege to purpose during his early years.
Born on November 14, 1889 in Prayagraj, which used to be known as Allahabad, his beginnings were honestly a world away from the dusty, chaotic streets of the freedom struggle he'd eventually lead. He was born into a highly prosperous, educated family. His dad, Motilal Nehru, was already a famous lawyer and a huge figure in the early freedom fight, and his mom, Swarup Rani Nehru, gave him a deeply religious, incredibly loving foundation. He had this wonderful, super insulated childhood. But here's the thing. Despite growing up in that incredibly comfortable bubble, Nehru had this fierce intellect and a deeply inherent curiosity. Even as a kid who just loved reading and learning, he started picking up on society's broader problems pretty early on. He didn't just sit back and accept his privilege, he actively questioned the world around him.
Now, his early schooling happened at home, but he was soon shipped off to England. We're talking the ultra-prestigious Harrow School, then Eton College, and eventually Trinity College at Cambridge University to study science and law. He even grabbed a law degree from the Inner Temple in London, literally walking the halls of the global elite. But he didn't just soak up Western academics, he actually fully adopted these radical, modern ideals of freedom, equality, and justice. And he decided right then and there that he absolutely had to bring those core values back to India and make them a reality.
Which brings us right into the fight for freedom.
So he heads back to India with this shiny new law degree. But instead of just settling down into a cushy, wealthy legal practice like you might expect, he dives headfirst into the freedom struggle. He meets Mahatma Gandhi and is profoundly influenced by him. Under Gandhi's leadership, Nehru completely ditched his elite English suits for homespun cloth and just threw his entire being into the fight for independence. Over this relentless, multi-decade campaign, he was right there on the front lines for the non-cooperation movement in 1920, the civil disobedience movement in 1930, and the massive Quit India movement in 1942. The really crucial takeaway here is that this wasn't some quick, easy political campaign. Over all these escalating movements, Nehru faced severe backlash from the British government. He went to jail a lot. We're talking years of his life spent behind bars. But despite the isolation, despite the unbelievable hardship, he never wavered. He held firmly to his views and remained absolutely resolute in his fight for the country's independence.
And that dedication is what ultimately made him the architect of modern India.
Bringing the story full circle back to that August 15, 1947 prime ministership, India was finally free, sure. But now came the truly monumental task of building an independent nation pretty much from scratch. The British were gone, leaving behind massive poverty, totally fractured infrastructure, and enormous social challenges. Nehru had the pivot instantly, from freedom fighter to nation builder. He knew that for India to actually survive and thrive globally, they had to focus heavily on foundational pillars, mainly science, education, and agriculture. And this just brilliantly shows off his forward-thinking mindset. He wasn't just patching immediate problems, he was looking decades down the line. He played a massive role in establishing premier institutions like the Indian Institutes of Technology, the IITs, and the Indian Institutes of Management, the IIMs. By betting big on those pillars, his policies set India on a path of really strong, steady development, laying the ultimate groundwork for the robust, modern nation that India is today.
Now, let's talk about a more personal side of his story, the legacy of Chacha Nehru.
You see, underneath the towering political figure and the big international statesman, there was this deeply compassionate person. Nehru genuinely believed that children were the true future of the country. He was entirely convinced that for India to succeed, its youth needed good education, endless affection, and really strong moral values. And that is exactly how he earned the affectionate nickname Chacha Nehru, which translates to Uncle Nehru. This wasn't some formal title cooked up by a PR team either. It was a genuine, loving name given to him directly by the children of India because of how much he loved and interacted with them.
This beautiful connection cemented his legacy way beyond his political or economic wins. In fact, it's so deeply honored that to this very day, his birthday on November 14th is celebrated all across India as Children's Day. It's such a lasting tribute to his unwavering belief in the limitless potential of the next generation. But of course, all great journeys do eventually come to a close. On May 27, 1964, Pandit Nehru passed away from a heart attack, a day that plunged the entire country into profound mourning. The man who had literally guided them from the darkness of colonial rule into the light of independence was gone. Yet even though his physical presence left this world, his immortal thoughts, his fierce democratic ideals, and those massive institutions he built, they continue to inspire and sustain the nation to this day.
And that incredible legacy leaves us with a really critical question today. How will you use your education and your truth to build the future? Nehru's life is honestly a masterclass on how a single individual can take their privilege, their education, and their unwavering dedication and use it to literally change the course of history. His story is proof that with enough hard work, a real commitment to truth, and a vision for the greater good, you can achieve pretty much anything. You've seen the blueprint of the architect of modern India. So, what are you going to build? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks your curiosity to keep learning and, more importantly, keep building.